bias bound, okay? So bias bound, we're gonna get 2 pieces of fabric and we're gonna stitch them at 1/2 inch. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean the seam allowance. Again, this is different options to clean a seam allowance, just like if you would use overlock. If anybody wears little dressier pants, at least the crotch seam, the rise, it is done with this bias bound system, okay? Because the overlock might move, might get out, might do a couple of those other things, and it might be itchy to your body, and this will be much smoother. So again, I put pins because I don't sew without pins, right? Right? Thank you. I like a choir. All right. So we're gonna stitch at 1/2 inch, always our thread to the back, right? I trimmed it off. I don't use my raw edge ripped. Reverse. And I'm gonna, and snug out. And then I'm gonna stitch at 1/2 inch and I'm gonna reverse. So I'm gonna do only one side. I will do the other side later on because I don't want you guys to keep staring at me, even though I'm too beautiful, right? Yes. So we're going to, see, everybody agreed. And if not, you're all liars. Anyway, so you press your seams open. Let's pretend that I went to the iron. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish the raw edge with a piece of bias. Why do we do bias? Because not all our seams are straight like this one. And the bias would mold as it goes around, okay? So I'm gonna turn just the seam allowance and I'm gonna place, I cut a piece of bias that it should be about 1.5 inches wide, okay? So I'm gonna place it on the seam allowance only. I'm not stitching everything, just the seam allowance only. And I'm gonna stitch this at 1/4 inch. To be really honest, it should be really 1.25 inches, but I'm doing 1.5 inches for you guys because otherwise it's just way too difficult to work with something that thin, and this fabric is not very thin, okay? So you might have the opportunity to actually work with a bias, a bigger bias bound, a wider bias bound, or a narrower bias bound. So now I'm gonna stitch at 1/4 inch, okay? Only the seam allowance, nothing else. Reverse again. And I'm gonna stitch at 1/4 inch. And I'm going to turn it over so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So it is very easily confused to stitch everything together, okay? So notice that I stitched only to the seam allowance. Yes? I'm going to push the seams towards the bias, okay? And now I'm going to match the edges. See that? It is easier to do it on the iron. Match the edges. And then we're gonna fold it again until we're covering that stitching line that we did. And I'm gonna top stitch on the edge. See, if it's cut well into the bias, you'll be able to turn it over. If it's not well in the bias, this will be twisting, okay? So now I'm going to do a top stitching on the edge to hold it down. And I pinned it like a lefty. Now keep in mind, you could use this on the outside of a garment as a decorative stitch, and you can use a contrasting fabric for this. I remember I used to have a pair of shorts that it had the French seams on the outside, and they made them oversized just for a decorative treatment. I don't know what I did with those. I think I lost weight and I threw them out. Anyway, so see that I have the edge inside this binding, right? So this is the bias bound. Now I'm going to show you the Hong Kong. And the Hong Kong, somebody asked me if they can use your bias tape. Well, that would be the same as that, but I'm going to show you how it's done. So first of all, I'm going to get 2 pieces of fabric and I'm going to stitch them at 1/2 inch like we've been doing. Now you know why we cut so many squares. I'm probably going to run out of squares in a minute. Thank you. Well, I'll replace them now.
No, I can
If because I have more fabric.
either way, my fabric is the brown one.
Huh?
My fabric is the other one.
Oh, your fabric is the other one. Oh, you have more of these.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're stealing my swatches.
No, I was.
You know how some people throw salt over your shoulder? As I throw bent pins. Just make sure there's nobody behind you.
There's people behind you.
Yeah. I don't want to hurt them. But I feel that a bent pin doesn't deserve my time, considering that I had surgery on every finger because of that. Yeah, look, I have scars on every finger. Ganglion cyst, 3 carpal tunnels. Carefully.
Things to look up forward
Also, our future.
No,
Fun things to look
no,
forward to.
no. A lot of it had to do with my diabetes too. But yeah, I mean, we grab little tiny things. You know, everybody thinks a carpal tunnel is for people in a computer. No, they're not that special. So I'm sewing at 1/2 inch because I'm going to do the Hong Kong finish. So for the Hong Kong finish, I cut the same bias piece of material that we did for the bias bound. I'm going to press it open and I'm going to finish again just the seam allowance. So I'm going to fold it over so I have only the one filled seam allowance. So once I cut it, I'm going to show you what I did on the iron. This is on the bias. I first pressed it, folded in half. Okay? Then I folded each side towards the center and then I press it again. Everybody okay with this? So I have it already done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert it so the edge is in the center of that bias of
Before you do that, can you open that so I can take a picture?
Yes.
Thank you.
So you first press it in half, and then you press the halves in another half. So the raw edges are in the center of it. So now I'm going to place it here, and then I'm going to just top stitch it on the edge. And that's it. And this is the Hong Kong finish. And if you do it well, you get a wonton. That's so stereotypical. Sorry. So I'm gonna go in here. And just top stitch on the edge, right? It takes more time on the iron, less time on the sewing, and is one better than the other? No, they're gonna have different applications. Depending on the fabric, depending the effect of what you wanna do, okay? And you can see that it's finished on both sides.
So cute.
What's the difference between this one and the bias bound?
The bias bound, you stitched it first, and then we folded it, and we folded it again, and we stitched it a second time. This one, we had it pressed already, and you just knock it. It's almost like a sheet of paper will be on the edge, and then you do it everything with one single top stitching. Okay? Advantages of disadvantages, if you don't match up this correctly, probably when I top stitching it doesn't catch the other side. On the other one, since I stitched it first and then second, will always be caught. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we did French seam. Now we're gonna do flat felt. You wanna stop them and go by names?